Just kidding, I don't know what happened yet. American muscle. Whew! 2 major problems. There's no engine in that thing and it smells like mouse pee. I'm gonna be sick. Welcome back to Stay Tuned, I'm Tony Angelo. Today we are working on our ultimate turbo sleeper Lincoln Mark VIII. I wanna build a nasty 600 plus horsepower turbocharged monster out of Grandpa's old Lincoln Mark VIII. And here's how we're gonna do it. We've got a fully built 4.6 liter quad cam monster, basically a Mustang Cobra engine that's built top to bottom. I'm talking aftermarket crankshaft, fully forged everything, hardened fasteners, and a big old giant turbocharger on here. We're gonna get this thing up and running and hopefully making 600 wheel horsepower and turn this old Lincoln into an absolute monster. Sleepers are the best. It's an unsuspecting car that absolutely romps your face off. You never see it coming, and that makes it 10 times better. Let's get started. So originally we set out to build a cheap turbo car. It's the greatest turbos rule. Oh, yeah. There's all sorts of dirt cheap stuff available online now. And instead of building like just another LS powered car, we wanted to build something a little bit different. And these 98, or what is it, 94 to whatever it is, 02 like or something, Mark VIIIs come with a 4-valve, essentially an early Mustang Cobra motor that makes near 300 horsepower without a turbo on it.
Which is crazy for that value.
Barb is kind of the 4-valve expert. As you can see, he's got his own coil covers on here. He had a really nasty 4-valve supercharged SN95 that ran 10 to the street car, super cool, super clean. And he sort of led us down this road, but I had always liked these cars, the Lincolns, and they're just a crazy value if you think about performance per dollar. We bought this car running and driving for $1,150 bucks. Yeah. And we drove it and it ripped pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Pretty good. It shifted, it hauled, it was awesome. So the idea of like just adding a cheap Chinese turbo to that thing was pretty attractive. So we went out, we did our own, it's not an LS, there are not 50 different manifolds you can buy. There's not a ton of stuff off the shelf to make it happen, but we built off of the stock exhaust manifolds just an up pipe and a down pipe and pieced together a super cheap turbo setup for the original stock motor. And all in, we were running it turbo, and it was really fun. And again, everything about that was really focused low buck. We made 395 wheel horsepower or something, tuning it on ROM tune that you soldered into the board. And the
the Moats quarter horse.
Yeah, which they went out of business, so we had to upgrade down the road. And we made like 395, almost 400 wheel horsepower all in for $4,000 or so, right?
Yeah, 4,200 or something.
4,200 bucks.
That's like
pretty
gas,
good.
fluid, spark plugs, heart, like everything. Like getting
Shipping,
us to the dyno.
Everything. And it was awesome. First run out, down the track, it exploded. No real way to say that. I got a little hot under the collar. I let it out, just let her eat down the drag strip, and by the 8th mile, it had spit out most of the parts inside the engine and all of the fluids.
Yeah.
It was not salvageable, is the term that the industry uses. So we said fine, we put it on a shelf for a minute, and we decided how do we come back and make this thing nastier, better, faster, bigger, more awesome. You can watch that first video, by the way. It's on the Haggerty channel. That's when we were making videos on Haggerty. It's got like 2 bazillion views. It was, the car was a really fun project, but we wanted to go faster, we wanted to go gnarlier, and then I was just cruising Marketplace and I found this. So what we have here is not the original stock motor that we blew up. We went out and bought a fully built top to bottom 32 valve 4.6 liter mod motor, built basically for turbo, and we blew that one up too. It happens. I don't know, we put it in with a bunch of upgrades. It's super nasty. We're gonna dig into it now and play the game I like to call, how bad is it? We'll tell you the story while we do it. Click the link to head over to the Stay Tuned merch store. We just came out with a brand new Cyclone shirt, and you can grab them while they last. Head over now. So after our first taste of pain blowing up that factory Ford motor, we decided to go out and buy this thing. This is a fully built 4.6. It is forged everything. I'm talking aftermarket crankshaft, rods, pistons, everything. It's got
head studs, ARP, everything.
It's
bullet cams.
Bullet cams, Kellogg crank, I forget the rods and pistons. It's nasty. It's a really serious piece, and I bought it used with very little history behind it, as I often like to do. It's called taking a gamble on Facebook Marketplace. Close your eyes and see what happens. So I found a guy, after digging around, trying to find a couple of the Terminator motors, which are the factory supercharged guys, and we couldn't find them. I found this engine. This is a Lincoln Mark VIII engine that was built, quote unquote, for nitrous. Fully built, like I said, top to bottom. Every single part is basically aftermarket. And we picked this whole thing up from a guy in Long Island for about 4,500 bucks.
Yeah, something like that.
Actually, we didn't even pick it up. He delivered it, if you recall.
In a minivan. Remember that? We pulled out the side of the door of a minivan.
Move. Yes. And his dad had bought it from an engine builder. They put it together, quote unquote, for nitrous. And after digging around a little bit, all I really cared about was what are the ring gaps like, and could I put a bunch of boost through it. And somehow or another, by just posting it up online and putting it in one of the videos, the original builder that put this together did reach out and said, yes, ring gaps are suitable. You should be able to run a bunch of boost on it. Gave me the specs of everything. So that was awesome.
That was crazy. Is what
it's wild. It was wild. You know what I mean? It was wild enough to find a built 4.6 with the right oil pan on it and everything else, and accessory drive from a Lincoln. But beyond that, it was built for boost, it's ready to rock, and we got it delivered to us. So we were crazy pumped. And then we decided to upgrade a few things. Number one, Gearstar fully built transmission for our 70W. They built one for me for the Crown Hick on HRG. It worked awesome. We need to hold serious horsepower because we're trying to make 600 wheel horsepower on this thing. All right, and on top of the Gearstar transmission, we put a Holley Terminator X on this thing so we could properly tune it. We had big hopes, high hopes. We were excited. Fully built motor, the Holley, the Gearstar trans. I drove it around. I put 100 miles on it. Took it to the dyno, threw a bunch of boost through it, and promptly blew it up. It didn't have any oil pressure. The motor had probably sat for too long. Never got a prime on it. Never read more than 7 PSI. Which we somehow decided to tell each other was just a bad faulty reading or something, which is super fun to do with your buddies, but has pretty drastic consequences. And we just let it sit for the last 9 months or so. And at that point, it became immediately hotly contested mouse real estate. And it seems like they built some condos over here. This seems to be like a nice park that's going on here. If you look, it's probably multi-use, a little bit of commercial space here, some sort of mouse sex dungeon. I don't know how they live, but it's disgusting. They went everywhere. It smells insane inside this car. It's disgusting, and it's a bummer, because again, this car has got a lot of nice stuff on it, so we're gonna try to revive it. See exactly what was the problem initially and go from there. When we were running it on the dyno with 7 pounds of oil pressure, starving the turbo and definitely killing it, it did make 465 wheel horsepower and 525 pound-feet of torque at the tires. Again, with no oil pressure and just killing a turbocharger. So I have high hopes that we're gonna add maybe 200 to those numbers and this thing will really party. All right, now we're gonna tear the transmission, starter, accessories off, get this thing on a stand, flip it upside down, and see if we can figure out how bad the damage is. So it's just a late night, a cold night here at the Stay Tuned shop. Zach didn't make it in because we got a ton of snow dumped on us today. It's me and Barb. We're able to get down here and start rocking. No big deal, just a couple dads who drive SUVs that can get through the snow instead of a Corolla that scrapes the ground everywhere. Zach, it's fine. We'll get it done. So we did pull the oil filter off of this thing when it was on the dyno, cut it open, and saw the beautiful gold glittery sparkles of death that you do not want to see in your oil. You might want to see it on your friend's face after a night out. It's up to you guys, depends on how you party. But for us, it's a bad sign. So what we're gonna do now is pull off the oil pan and see just how bad these bearings are wrecked. We know there's been metal to metal contact, bearings were definitely getting chewed up. We're gonna see how bad it is. Best case scenario, we're just gonna slap in some new bearings and an oil pump, clean everything out, all of the different oil galleys, and send this thing back to the dyno to make ungodly amounts of turbocharged horsepower. Worst case is the crank is scored, it's got to be cut, we have to get it machined. Our goal is no machine work, so cross your fingers and buckle up. Let's pull it apart. To be clear, we have no idea what's going on here. This is to keep it very real over here, so if the crank is annihilated, we probably won't get it back together this week just because we'll have to get it machined and cut. So I'm hoping that we can get this thing rocking. I'll probably get something that stays on here next. Ah! Just kidding, I don't know what happened yet. Oh, geez.
Oh.
Here you go. More of the particles of doom right there. In the worst way. All right. Oh, Farish. It's a big chunk here. That's still bearing material. I can crumble it with my fingers, so. But they're definitely squirting out all over the place. You can see, and we had the pan off originally. Ooh. What?
That's some hot rods.
Hot rod. I love hot rod. Oh, hot rods. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so here's the deal. Rods will move back and forth on the journal of the crankshaft a little bit of wiggle back and forth. What you don't want is up and down. That's where you know the bearing is shot. I'm going to start turning these around and just have a look. These two are a much different color, whatever these are, 3 and 4, 3 and, yeah. Then the rest of the rod bolts. You can see here, nice and pretty. These things are dark brown. We don't love that. Let me spin it around and we'll have a look at them. Wow, really got after it there. You can see this crank's been balanced. There's some heavy metal in here, welded up. It's a nice piece. I'm hoping not to destroy it. You can also see, you know, one of those I-beam rods, H-beams. And nice pistons. Everything is good. We just got to figure out what happened here. And can we fix it? What's nice is it does still spin. That's good. I don't see any crazy cracks in the block or anything, which is also good. This is the Texid block, which is the strongest Ford block of all time or something, Barb says. It's made in Italy, so I like that. That's where our pizza comes from. So we got that going for us. This is definitely the problem child. I don't understand what was happening here, why this one got all of the heat, all of the damage. The rest of them look brand new. That one doesn't even look as bad. See, that's the original material on the top side there. Right here, no damage for sure. Here, definitely bearing material. Larry is here from Roberts Engine Development. He likes to build Chevy motors.
He'll build anything.
But he'll build anything. He built the Pontiac motor, which is basically
we build Coyotes.
Pretty killer, and he's done mod motor stuff. He's here to just let us know if there's any chance of getting this thing back together, and if we can, how quickly we can do it. He took the drive over. We appreciate it. Good to see you.
You're welcome.
So what do you think is going on here?
Well, one thing you could be having an issue is possibly aeration with the pan. The second thing too is maybe a harmonics problem.
Okay.
From the way I see the weight was drilled out of this.
Gotcha.
It
and
might
you know
be
that
fine.
it basically...
It might be fine, but a lot of times it'll pick in the middle.
Okay.
With a harmonics problem from balance.
So it only really ever showed like 7 psi oil pressure, and we decided, because we're geniuses, that it was just a bad sensor or something.
Yeah.
Turns out it was probably just 7 psi oil pressure. Why would that affect mostly the middle so drastically, you know, as opposed to the rest of it?
It could be if it was aerated. Okay, it could be that was maybe the least area for the oil to get to. Sometimes these gerotor pumps can aerate at high RPM.
Yeah, and I know that these are prone to crack too.
Yeah.
which we think
But,
may be the issue because it was overall pretty low.
It'd be interesting to pull a main here and here to see what it looks like on the lower end cap.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then maybe take it from there.
Pull a couple mains and see what's up.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Pull up.
Oh, yeah, it's walking up. There you go.
Beautiful.
Yep. Yep, she was not happy. See, it's got the heat in there. It's shiny. That thing's got to be line honed.
All right. How do we get this out of here? Does it matter at this point?
No.
No.
You need new ones no matter what.
There it goes.
All right, so let's see. Which way was this in there? Yeah. Be interesting to take that one off.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's do it. Cool. Okay, so we see that the main bearings, or the bearings in the main journal were spinning for sure. We know that the rod bearings are toast here. We're trying to figure out how bad the crank is. Larry wants to pull another main cap off of sort of the good side of the crankshaft, we'll call it, where there's not as much heat and damage that's visual, and see how bad this one is, I think is the plan. Also, towards the outside, he thinks there may be less stress on it moving up and down if there is any kind of
Just want
balance
to
issue
see a
with the
pattern.
crankshaft. Yeah.
All right, so the worst damage on this one is towards the back, and the worst damage on that one was towards the back.
Mm-hmm. So we hate them back.
Well, I think you just tear it all down.
Got it.
We'll check everything. You either
Yeah.
have an aeration or maybe a
broken oil pump or something.
balance issue that caused this.
Okay.
But we'll have to see.
So dig in, we'll tear the heads off and
Yep.
take it all apart, bring it to you. You just want the crankshaft?
Crank, rods, pistons.
Okay.
You can bring this balancer with. That should be it.
Okay. So Larry knows this motor needs to be pretty fully gone through. The crankshaft's got to come out. He wants to rebalance everything. Line bore, the main caps, the whole bit. So we want to tear it apart and see if there's anything salvageable in here. If there's any head damage, we're into it now. You can see there's 8,000 valves controlled by all 4 of these chains. This is like, pretty intense. But we're going to try to dig in a little further, figure out where these things come apart. It does all look very much brand new, which is the biggest bummer of this whole thing, is that it was a fresh rebuilt motor with a ton of new parts. Timing guides look fine. There's some, comp timing gears that are dialed in. Apparently this was, theoretically degreed in properly. We have a lot of documentation on that. We're going to mark everything. We're going to make sure it's a top dead center and then pull those cylinder heads off and see if there is any damage to them. If there's not, there is on Marketplace a built short block we might be able to get our hands on, slap this thing back together and get rocking. We try to get a lot done in every episode here at Stay Tuned, and I'd love to have this thing back in the car, maybe even fired up this week, which is a lot because it's midday Wednesday, and this episode comes out in 2 days. So if this doesn't get done, we're going to lose the shop or the channel or I don't know, something. It'll be bad.
At least some sleep.
Good, it's lunchtime here at Stay Tuned. We got to make sure we keep on our winter weight. I'm crushing a proper Philly cheesesteak from our boys at Tornetta's. That is an old school pie. Listen to this. That crunch means it's good. All right, today's pizza was brought to you by Royce Brecken. It's quite a name. I love it. Old Rolls Royce did the donate us a pizza button, and we appreciate it big time. People asked if there was a way they could send us pizza, and that's the way to do it. Click the link and let it fly. Thank you. We appreciate it so very much. Okay, so after talking to Larry and figuring out all the damage that's been done to our 4-valve Ford motor, we did a little bit of a tally, and more or less it's going to be like this. Larry wants to line bore the whole thing because the main cap's got hot. 2 rods have got to be replaced. All the rod bearings that go with those things have got to be replaced. We'll probably do all of them. Main bearings all spun. So all new main bearings, then the crank's got to get cleaned up, potentially cut undersized. You're talking about quite a bit of machine work, quite a bit of time and a bunch of parts. Now here on Stay Tuned, we like to rock and roll and try to get stuff moving quickly. This is not a project I want to dig back into in the 6 more months because we let it sit for so long. I'd like to hear it run and fire up and make some power now. So I got on the most dangerous website known to man for car enthusiasts, Facebook Marketplace, and I found a couple, somehow, miraculously, because nobody really messes with these Ford 4 valves that much, 2 different built short blocks, and I'm on my way to grab one now. This was just the quickest way to go, and there's a guy here, he's got another aluminum Cobra block. This one is a little bit later, so it was not built in Italy. It's a WAP block. Should still be good for 800 wheel or so. So I'm on my way out there now, and I want to get rocking. I want to hear this Lincoln fire up. I want to see the new turbos start spinning. I want to make power. Down the road, we can deal with that old motor. It can get fixed at any time if that's what we want to do. But right now, I want to see that choo-choo screaming. So I'm heading out. It's still nasty and snowy. I'm all by myself, which is not my favorite way to go out and buy an engine from a random guy with, you know, a little bit of money in my pocket, but I'm doing it. So here we go, and we'll see what comes back. Boom. Okay, so I wound up purchasing this moderately questionable, but definitely very exciting 4-valve built engine that we're gonna rock into our Lincoln Mark VIII. It's a fully built short block. It's got probe pistons, it's got some I-beam rods. It's supposed to have the same Kellogg's crank, it's 375 stroke, as the engine that we were using before. This is not the Texid Italian block, the most sought after one. This is a WAP block. These things are good for like 800 wheel horsepower. If we could make 550 wheel, I'd be thrilled. So that gives us a little more headroom once we get in there. That's kind of our goal with this thing. It's got forged pistons, it's got the good rods, it has some ARP hardware, and all of our stuff is gonna bolt right on this thing. It's not quite as beautiful and clean as that one, but it's supposedly been refreshed and ready to run. And the guy told me, of course, this is not his motor, it's the other guy's motor. He knew and took it apart and whatever. But he said it went 890 in a Mustang, and I see a pilot bearing here. So now we're talking about 890 in a stick car. So whoever had this thing liked to party, and I appreciate them a whole lot. This is not the Texid block, it's a WAP block, which Zimmy told me is a pretty popular recent song with words I will not repeat here. I was clutching my pearls when I heard it. It's just disgusting. Okay, since this is a manual car, we need to remove the pilot bearing because that is where the snout of the torque converter is going to slide in and nestle in and center the whole unit up. And it's got to come out. One fun little trick is take some doughy bread and just shovel it in there as hard as you can. Believe it or not, it will work in a hydraulic fashion and remove this little pilot bearing. And what you want to do is get something that fits in here really well. I'm going to get a bolt. Barb handed me this extension, but we're probably going to go bolt with it that fits well. And you just start shoveling it in there. And give it some taps with a hammer, it's going to come right out. Probably get a different hammer.
Yep.
There it is.
Hey.
Boom. Removed. You can see the fire engine red paint job on this bad boy. Made me wonder if it was aluminum or not, but when I lifted it into the truck with the seller, I was pretty sure it was aluminum because it wasn't too bad. It was not. It just took the two of us to throw it up in there, and I've acted like this thing is unknown. Honestly, so far so good. It looks pretty great. So, you know, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. I feel like this thing is giving me good vibes. As we dig into this motor, it does look pretty solid. It's definitely a forged crank. It has H-beam rods and probe pistons. Those are forged aluminum pistons with addition in them, which will be great for boost. I believe Valesio racing engines are the ones that both built and maintained this thing and refreshed it when the previous owner pulled us out to put an LS in it, which, you know, is probably sacrilege in the Ford world. We don't really care either way. We like all engines to make power and stay together. But it does look pretty good. Nothing crazy scoring-wise. There's no crazy rock to these things. It's supposed to be set up with a 22 top ring gap and 26, so that's why we're getting a little bit of this. It's 4, it's going to slap around, it's going to expand. We like that because it's set up for boost, and we should be able to run a whole bunch with that kind of ring gap. So this thing is ready to party. I had been told it was a 375 stroke crank. I'm looking at it now. I measured it. Even with this little T-square, I can see it's stock stroke. It may, what's cool is that a lot of these Cobra motors had forged cranks in the factory. I believe it's a factory Ford forged crank. It doesn't matter, it's still gonna make a whole bunch of horsepower. It has the good pistons. It has ARP 2000 rod bolts. It has everything we need to make a whole bunch of horsepower. And if you've been watching the channel for a while, right now the horsepower king is my Firebird, my 74 supercharged Firebird that did 570 wheel. I think this thing might make even more than that. It might take the crown, and that'd be cool because it's such a difference of a car, right? Firebird is like 80s, loud, wild, sparkly paint, giant supercharger sticking out of the hood. This is like boring on purpose. Old 90s, nobody cares about it. Lincoln Mark VIII we got for 1,200 bucks. Totally different. If this thing steamrolls the Firebird, it will be pretty cool. All right, let's slap it together. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time here. We're going to put our head studs from the old engine into it. We're going to give it a quick scrub and start putting stuff together. See if it spins now. How about that? It did not want to spin before. It's hitting the windage tray. Had a little mini heart attack right there. I'm gonna tell you something. She feels good.
Yeah.
So anytime you get a motor that's been laying around outside in some shop or anywhere, and you want to wipe out the cylinders, run it around a couple times to spin it over. Because at least the piston rings will scrape everything to the top. Yep. Then put each cylinder to the, wipe the ones that are at the bottom, spin it, wipe the other ones. You see it'll pick up all this junk.
Yep. Let me get
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the people at home.
I'm yapping myself.
I like you.
Sometimes you gotta do that. These look pretty clean, which is awesome. Go ahead. Keep going.
I mean, I threw it in a snowy truck bed. Yeah, run that all around each piston ring. Good.
Yep.
Quick wipe down with acetone on the face.
Yep.
And then we'll rock with it. Yeah, before we put the head studs in,
yeah,
it's the only time you're gonna be able to wipe across it.
Yep.
So we'll wipe the sealing surface.
No.
Try not to get any gunk from the paper towel in there.
Yep.
You should really use like
I know, we don't have any.
a rag, an old t-shirt.
Take it off.
You can't have this one, buddy. This is my Stay Tuned guy. My Stay Tuned crew neck, baby. These are sold out. Probably have to do another run of these things, but is there any left?
Like 2.
Like 2.
3.
If you want to Stay Tuned crew neck, grab it now. All right.
You're a 3X.
If you're a 3X dude or lady, grab them. Sweet. Used head gaskets. Rock and roll. They only have a couple miles on them.
Yeah.
Because everything exploded, so that'll be, give them another chance. Get them back in the game. All right, so we stole these head studs from the other engine. We're going to jam them in this one. See what happens. And these are multi-layer head gaskets. You actually should be able to reuse them. Should be okay.
These are huge. Good clamping force there.
Oh, lots of clamping force. That's my favorite thing is nice hot dog and clamping force. Those are 2 things that keep me going.
Shout out to Ralph.
Shout out to my boy Ralph, Big Bike Ralph. Big hot dog enthusiast. All right, it's time to slam these cylinder heads back on. Oh, they are big, beefy boys. Like that. Boom. Barb did go pull the oil passages, the plugs out of this thing, and hose them all through. Yes, ideally we would have taken all 32 valves out and all the lifters and cleaned them out. But we mostly saw bearing failure. It should have mostly sat in the pan and the filter should have caught it. He said just about nothing dirty came out of here, so I feel pretty good about it. and we just want to be rocking and rolling. So we're slapping these things back on, a little bit, roll the dice, see what happens. Oh, they're heavy. That went pretty smooth. Ha!
Considering how long these studs are,
It's got to have a hernia from that thing.
I hear it.
Oh, all right, now anytime you're using a hardened stud, a head stud, you want to get proper manufacturer's lubricant on both sides of the washer, and then put the nuts on and then torque everything down. We're going to do that now. That's what I was talking to people at home. Talking to Mr. B or Lazy Boy or somebody.
Yeah.
You know you guys are watching. We appreciate you.
Love those dudes.
Love those dudes. I mean, we appreciate everybody that watches. It's just Lazy Boy and Mr. B are like been there since day one. All right, both heads are on. I'm torquing them down. If you go on ARP's website, they have instructions / torque pattern sequences and ratings for all their stuff. So I just printed it out, and I am going to torque these bad boys down, and then we'll move on to the next steps. Timing chains. This thing is really shaping up to be something. After Larry saw that engine, I was kind of hopeless, and now that we've got this thing, this short block, and we're getting it together, it's starting to feel like something. Oop, maybe. Maybe? Just kidding, it's good. It's good. Okay, that's all of them.
Okay.
All right, before we throw on those timing chains, I'm going to spin this thing upside down. We have to deal with the oil pump and the pickup. So the pickup will not work for our Lincoln pan. It's set up for a Mustang because 98% of Ford enthusiasts drive Mustangs, except for us. I'm going to pull this thing off. It just moves it over a little bit, and our pan sump is back here. And we're going to swap out this oil pump. This has a 3-valve pump on it, which is supposed to be better than stop it. We've got an even better solution because, again, our biggest issue so far has been oil starvation. Okay, engines are happiest when there is that good dinosaur juice slathered on every single component, and they're getting good lubrication. Metal to metal contact is very bad. Okay, that's what you want to avoid. When Mr. Crankshaft slams into Mr. Rod Bearing, pieces go flying, and that's bad news. To make sure this thing has great lubrication, we are starting with this piece here. This is a Ford Racing oil pump, and there's still an issue. Even the Ford Racing pump still has cast gears, and they are prone to shatter. And one thing you don't want any part of your car to really do is shatter. Bad news. So I'm going to dig in here. We have an upgrade. Boundary makes a billet oil pump gear, and I'm going to slam these suckers in here. It comes with instructions, some cool graphics on there. Somebody had to sign their name that they know these things are good. Somebody more familiar with these bad boys measured this set of gears, and so that is a great start. So these are guaranteed to be much better. One thing we thought might be the culprit in our old engine demise was the oil pump gears, but it turns out that thing had billet gears too. We still don't exactly know why it had 7 psi oil pressure. Hopefully we'll find out one day and I'll be able to sleep at night. But for now, we're just going to cut these bad boys open and install them into that Ford Racing pump. And you can see the difference here between the cast and the billet. I am using the provided lubricant to make sure this thing can spin happily, because obviously it's going to start up pretty dry and eventually it's going to draw oil up and then pump it into the engine. So to make sure that it starts up happily, Boundary gave us this Giroter, which is the type of pump this is, assembly lubricant. And I'm going to slather this bad boy everywhere between all of the different lobes of this thing and all the different faces so that it runs happily everywhere. And this stuff is really tacky, which is nice. So we'll know, because it's going to need to spin quite a bit to suck that oil up the first time it gets going. And this will keep things lubricated while that happens. And I'm going to do my best to use every ounce that they gave us on all the different moving parts. And that looks pretty good. This gear here will engage with the snout of the crankshaft, and it will suck oil up through this hole with all the negative pressure it's going to make, squeeze it through here, and cram it via magic out of this hole into the engine and keep this thing properly lubricated. These are 2 machine surfaces. There's no gasket. I'm just going to wipe it down and bolt it back up after I say like a little bit of a prayer maybe. Yeah, I wiped some on this front face as well and hope for the best. Give it a little pep talk. It's your time to shine. You could be like the hero of this episode. You could do it. You could make all that horsepower, but like you can't make horsepower without lubrication. You know? The lowly oil pump. It's your time to shine, baby. You could do this. Please, I don't want to do this again. All right, I am just going to assemble this thing. I'm going to torque these to sure, why not? And then we'll get this thing ready to install in the motor. I'm both excited about this motor because it looks well used, like it worked for a long time, and then sort of terrified because it looks like it was run real hard for a long time. But I do know this. If this one doesn't work or make any oil pressure, I'm definitely pushing this thing into a lake. It might come back, but it's not going to be with a 4-valve Ford motor, I can tell you that much. Fool me twice. Shame on you, Ford guy. That's the saying, right?
Yeah.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Shame on the Model T. Is that how it goes? Something like that. Somewhere in there.
Fool me thrice, throw it in the lake.
Yeah. I am imagining this car working and being awesome. And I'm thinking like, we should get it working and it's gonna be an absolute animal. Then we should get some like golf clothes and like maybe some old man outfits and like some masks and like really just go out hunt dudes in like Corvettes and stuff and like just rip them to shreds. That'd be amazing. Like if we have, you know, like full on old man masks, that whole thing. Let's do it. Costumes, I'm in. I'm in. Catch them sleeping for real. Take it down to Front Street, catch some dudes in a street race, maybe allegedly. Allegedly, that would be hilarious. And we're gonna go down to a sport compact meet and we'll lay it on thick and be like, listen, Sonny, this car is from the golden age of American muscle. What do you got there, little tin can? 4 cylinders. That's cute. My sciatica is killing me. Oh, you look like Doris Day. Rita Hayward. All right, pump time. Put your pump on. Looks good. Those are machine surfaces. Don't put anything on them. All right, I'm just gonna put the oil pickup on, and then we'll do the chains and stuff. Spin this thing around, see what it looks like. Making sure we have the right pickup on there. I put a new O-ring, so that's where that one goes. Mustang one would live further forward and over to the side. Now it's got to come off. If we're going to keep this half of a windage tray, we got to remove this locating plate here. All right, so I just knocked off, there were 3 of these little guides. I knocked one off so that I could keep part of the windage tray here. I've got a fresh O-ring on the pickup. It's nice and clean, and it sits where it's supposed to now, which is great. There's a long and a short pickup bolt on the end here where it goes in the pump. I'm using the short one on this end because that way it won't slam, somehow break to the case and get into those gears, which would be a complete disaster. All right, we are ready to put those chains on. All right, it's the next morning, it's snowing, it's time to get these camshafts and cam chains all installed properly. We went to do it last night, our marks got all jammed up, and the moment Barb loosened the cam sprockets on those cams, they're able to spin because there was no Woodruff keys in there. Apparently that's what Ford guys do when they degree their cams. They just bolt them on tight as they can and hope that the the tension spins the cam and it never moves. Apparently it works. We are gonna now go trudging through half a foot of snow to get some keys made up and at least do a base timing install, get that motor back together, and wrap this thing up. I can't wait to do it. Here we go. All right, I'm back from Tractor Supply with a length of 1/4 inch key stock. The deal is this. We lost the degree on our camshafts, and really putting it on a different engine short block would potentially change some different things anyway. As soon as Barb loosened the cam gear bolt on the end of this thing, it allows it to spin, because the old engine builder, when they degree it, believe it or not, they don't use Woodruff keys in the Woodruff key slots. So the cams can just move willy-nilly until you tighten down with the bolts. So what we're gonna do now is, because it's Friday morning, this video comes out in 5 minutes, and we don't have the tools or the time or the know-how to degree these things in properly, we're gonna set it back to factory spec. We'll still be able to adjust both cams in relation to the crankshaft because of the comp cams, adjustable timing gears, but we won't be messing with the relationship from the exhaust cam to the intake cam. We're just gonna cut a piece of key, lock these in, and put them on like factory.
And of course, Ford doesn't use nominal sizes.
Ford does not use American sizes. I'll be grinding this down, and since I bought that sweet mill, but we haven't bought any tooling yet, we don't have any end mills, I'll do this old school with like a flap wheel or something.
Perfect.
Yes, and listen, if you're Ford mod motor guys out there and you're telling us that this is a complete disaster, let us know in the comments, or that this hey, have to be degreed. We'll figure it out. Pre-grind, post-grind.
Beaut.
Good. Close enough. What is it called?
It's an engine. You think it's
Engine,
going to be
yeah.
fast?
I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be fast. We think it'll explode? No!
Yeah!
Yeah!
We heard
We
it.
love that.
All right.
Yes.
Set the dots. So we're going to do it the
We're gonna
whole
do it just
factory way.
straight factory Ford assembly line way, which means we set the crank to top dead center. You point the key slots towards the crankshaft, so they're 6 o'clock with the head. Then we're gonna put on our gears, the secondary gears, with the on the marks. See these chain marks? So like this.
So why don't I go back here and I can rotate these slightly as you need.
Okay. Hold on. Put these hot keys in there. The secondary gears on this, since they're staggered with the cylinders and the gears on the crank, they go on gear out on the driver's side, gear in on the passenger side. And it's impossible to spin them because of the way that the tensioners are, so it's pretty easy to figure that out. There you go. Okay. We're in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We have cut this Woodruff key short because the comp cam's gear fits in there. Tell me when I'm right about to the mark where it's supposed to be. What am I supposed to... There you go. See, it's tight enough. I knew it. I could feel it. All right, do this one.
Ready? Pull.
All right. Nice
Good
work
job.
there, Owen.
All right. I'm going to get it to the spot. Ready?
Yes. If you actually go in the Ford factory service manual, when you're putting in your cam guides, they do say the best way to torque it is to use child labor. It's a little bit controversial, but it
Good.
works.
All right, ready? This one? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy.
I think that's it. Okay, well, it's gonna go right back where it was. I guess that makes sense.
It's going to do something, maybe.
I guess. I mean, I don't know that I know something, but yeah. That's it.
Maybe we do know what we're doing.
We definitely don't. We definitely don't.
We did it.
Did we do it?
We did.
All right, just tighten these up and then.
I'm looking for the socket.
I'm excited. It's getting in there. That looks like 4 camshafts, marks, 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 marks. So now that I'm deeply involved with this engine, that's 0. This is a little bit off, but the pickup is right there. Can't tell where that is, but I promise it's where it's supposed to be. And then just sliding it on to see TDC. And if you look closely,
Nailed it.
that's your line. This is the 0 mark. That is the TDC guy right there. Okay,
Did it.
we'll call this timed. Valve covers intake so I can stand back and look at it. We're gonna call this done.
Crown jewels. Lay that intake on there and
Hey, we spun it around and it did the thing. It did it. It spins
effortlessly.
beautifully.
What if this goes 890s?
That would be a riot. All right, put that
Intake.
intake on.
Hit it.
Wait. Boom. There it is.
There it is.
All right, it's been kind of a nuts week with all the weather and the snow and all the damage that was done to the old engine. We scrounged for parts. We found this and that. We went around. We learned some stuff about cam timing. We've finally built a proper gnarly 4.6, I hope, for the Lincoln Sleeper. I'm looking for this thing to make like 600 wheel horsepower, and we are going to put the screws to it next episode. It's back together. It's looking good. I love this red, white, and blue thing we got going on. A little bit of America power, rocking and rolling. That is going to be it for this episode. Stay tuned. We have to get out of here. It's Friday afternoon. You're going to see this video in like 2 seconds. But I promise we're going to come back next week, get it in the car, get it running, and hopefully even get it to the dyno and see what kind of power this random marketplace used motor can make. I'm excited. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.